Howdy, folks. Welcome to another masterclass series day. We have a really good one today with Adam Haroun. We're super excited. Guys, if you're out here early, get in the chat, say hi, light up that chat. I want to hear where y'all are calling in from, what you're most excited about today. Give me all the good stuff. Let's make this fun. But without further ado, I'm going to do a little intro here for our great speaker. Folks, just join me in welcoming, truly one of the best standouts in the luxury aesthetics market, Adam Haroun. He's got a global roster of all the top tier surgeons and injectors who work with him by referral only. Adam is like the go-to strategist for these practices that are looking to lead with that prestige and that value prop. He's a keynote speaker for a lot of the major industry conferences, Aesthetic Next being one of them, and shared insights with brands such as like MERS Aesthetics, Hydrofacial, Allergan, so many across the US, UK, Canada, all that great stuff. And today you guys are going to hear just his proven framework about truly how referrals can just transform your practice. And this is one I'm super, super excited about. So Adam, come up and join us on stage without further ado.
Thank you for that very kind introduction, Jeremy. I'm so excited to be here with all of you guys today. And we're just gonna have a blast. This is awesome. I love the bolero. I love the cowboy hat. You got your style going. This is great.
I try. I got to show out for you, Adam. We got a whole thing going here.
I love it. This is gonna be good. We have so much fun today. Thank you for that kind introduction. That was awesome.
Absolutely. Well, hey, take it away, guys. I'll be back for some Q&A at the end. Have fun, Adam.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. Well, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending where in the world you're joining me from today. And I am so excited for today's topic. This is a topic that, whether it is your first day in aesthetic medicine or you've been at this for a decade, it is something that is equally relevant to all of you. So I'm going to get my slides pulled up here, and we're going to dive right on in. So what I want to talk to all of you about today is from patients to promoters. From patients to promoters, how referrals can really transform your practice. So lots of opportunities to learn today. I would encourage you, grab your notepad. Maybe you like taking notes on your iPad, and that's great too. But whatever you want to do, make sure you got something to take notes with, because we are going to go through a lot very, very quickly this afternoon. And of course, as always for these master classes, I'm going to leave plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So let's get right into it, shall we? So my name is Adam Haroun, and I am, as Jeremy very kindly introduced, a brand marketing expert who works exclusively in aesthetics. I speak at different conferences, I speak from companies, but more than anything, I'm an advocate for all of you. So really want to share a few things as we kick off here. Now, you're going to get a lot of actionable advice today, but there is no silver bullet in marketing, right? Marketing is not one thing. Marketing is everything. Marketing is not one thing. Marketing is everything. Referrals are a big part of that, and having RepeatMD is like taking it into hyperspeed. So you're already like so far ahead of like 90% of your competitors, but there is no such thing as silver bullet in marketing. What I am going to share with you is proven best practices that you're going to be able to use for the rest of the year, heading into 2026, and far beyond that. So let's get right into everything we're going to cover today. So I really want to talk to you all about why I love offline marketing and specifically referrals. I want to talk to you about where high tech meets high touch, right? People often think like digital marketing and referrals are at odds, but in reality, they work so beautifully next to one another. I'm going to talk to you all about how do you build a referral network, and not just any old referral network, but a referral network that's really going to get you the right kinds of patients, aka upscale patients who gladly spend more. And we're going to talk all about some of the real world strategies that clinics are using right now, wellness providers are using right now, aesthetic practices are using right now to really grow their referral base. So let's get into it, right? Now, what's great about this topic, like I said a few minutes ago, is whether you are brand new to all things, cash pay medicine, and you're new to being in business for yourself, or you've got a practice that's been, humming away for a decade, this is equally relevant to all of you. So whenever I do these master classes, I really like to tailor my advice to kind of whoever's in the room. So let's talk a little bit about where you're all at. If you want to let me know in the chat where you're at in your practices, I can make sure that I'm tailoring what I share with you guys all today to your specific needs. So I talk to probably dozens, if not hundreds of practices, every month. And I see providers in different phases, right? I joke, I'm like a budding Pilates enthusiast. I do Pilates level 1, right? Not that that's any better or worse than like Pilates level 4, but if I were to take the level 4 class, like I would break a hip, right? Not better or worse, I'm just not there yet, right? So if I look at all the practices I speak to, most of them fit into one of these 4 categories. So you've got a few people already saying this first page describes you. Phenomenal. So The first phase, a lot of practices are in. We've got lots of you in this first phase. Is you're starting out and you're solo. You're probably growing to your first $500,000 of revenue and really just getting your feet wet in all things patient acquisition. Let me tell you, if that's you, you are in such a good spot having RepeatMD from day one. I know practices that don't even figure that out 5 years in. So you're already starting off strong. I love that. A lot of you might be at that next phase of growth, right? Where you're between your first $500,000, but not at that first million yet. And right now you're kind of just trying to figure out like, what's my next move, right? Do I do this for marketing? Do I do that, right? You've got a good patient base going, but we really want to get you to that next level, which is your first 7 figures, right? I see a number of you are saying, like Nicole here, that you are eager to elevate. This is a really fun phase. And this is like one of my favorite phases to see practices leverage their RepeatMD in even more detail, because it can take you to that next level of growth when you really lean into your app. And this is eager to elevate, right? You're between 1 and 3 million. You've got a lot of great stuff going, but your biggest challenges right now are probably time and competition, right? You don't have time to market. You need tools like RepeatMD to do it for you and really take a lot of that off your plate. And you're seeing a lot of competitors, kind of just try and take your market share, which is why having a membership is like such an antidote to that increased pressure in the marketplace, right? And then last but not least, we've got, maximizing market leadership position. And this is an interesting place to be, because sometimes the only thing harder than getting to the top of your market is staying there, right? So I see we've got a good mix of you throughout the room today, a bit of people in all of the different scenarios. Amazing. Again, what's so great about referral marketing is it can be a catalyst for all of you, no matter which of these buckets you fall into. So let's talk about how you do it, shall we? So I always say referrals are the new viral. Referrals are the new viral. Why do I always say this? Because, I'm not saying, don't run meta ads. I'm not saying like paid ads are bad. I'm not saying don't do social media. You need to do all of those things, right? Good marketing is omnipresent. But if we look at a lot of the data out there, there is increasing information that we see, digital ads on their own aren't going to make the grade. Why is this, right? So we know if we look at luxury brands across sectors, many of them are actually diverting their marketing budget away from just doing meta ads or just doing TikTok ads and really going more into, experiential marketing, things that are happening in their communities, things that are happening offline. We also know from Saks Luxury Pulse survey at the end of 2023 that 70% of high net worth shoppers actually prefer personalized outreach, the kind you can do through your RepeatMD app. Like they prefer that over like a blasted, ad that they're seeing, on every digital site and everywhere else. They really prefer personalized outreach, right? Again, another report from Deloitte Insights shared that, again, a lot of these brands are allocating their spend from just doing things digitally to doing things in the community and focusing on their offline audiences, right? Just some more stats here that, many purchases happen online, but some happen in certain industries offline as well. And in-person events really increase loyalty. So again, I'm not saying don't do digital marketing. Probably one of the best digital tools you have at your disposal is your RepeatMD app. But what I am saying is leaning into referrals can make it happen so much more effectively for you. Like I said, Google ads, meta ads, not saying don't do them. Just relying on them alone is not going to be your best bet heading into 2026, especially if maybe you look at your patient base over the last year. And, as we look at what you're planning to do in the new year, maybe you are looking to go more up market. Maybe you are really looking to expand into that higher net worth patient base. Referrals are how you are going to get there. So let's talk a bit more about this. If you really think about the past 6 months, the past 12 months, right? Odds are, if you think of who your most easy to convert patients were that were seeing for the first time, if you think of those new patients who spent the most, if you think of like who became the most loyal after their first visit, odds are in most cases, those patients probably came to you from a referral. And if you think of like someone who finds you through, I don't know, a Facebook ad versus someone who comes your way through a referral, how different was that first conversation? How different was that consult, right? With that person that came to you completely cold, odds are like you were kind of trying to like have to convince them and explain why you're the best and why it's worth the money and all these different things. And there was like a little bit of like arm wrestling. But if you think of someone that like came to you through a referral, odds are they were probably pretty close to being ready to go, right? They had a friend who told you were awesome, a coworker who told you were awesome, whatever the case happens to be. And that consult is probably a lot warmer and probably involved a lot less convincing and just more really getting to know each other, right? Who doesn't want a day, a week, a month, a calendar full of consults like that? It's such a warm conversation. They're not coming to you skeptical. They're coming to you that much more engaged and that much more ready to say yes to your treatments and procedures. We all want that, right? Referrals are truly the best way to get there. Another reason I'm so big about referrals is kind of building on this. If we look at all of your marketing, whether it's social media, maybe you're doing billboards, maybe you are doing something with email marketing, in any case of your marketing, whatever channels you choose, there are 4 audiences you can speak to, right? So if we look at like a Google ad, or we look at like something you're doing on the radio, if you're doing radio ads, which I actually don't recommend in most cases, by the way, but maybe you are doing those, right? Anything that's like going out to the general public who doesn't know you from, the next person, those are cold leads, right? Not saying don't market to them, but what I am saying is if we compare them to everyone else you can market to, they are going to be the slowest to convert. They're also going to be the most difficult to convert, right? The next audience you can speak to is inactive patients, right? And these are those patients, different practices define an inactive patient in different ways, but that could be maybe a patient you haven't seen in over 3 months, or maybe a patient you haven't seen in 6 months or more, right? And we really want to welcome them back into the practice. It's well worth doing, but for one reason or another, they aren't with you anymore, and it might take a little bit of time to welcome them and win them back, right? But if we look at the next 2 audiences, the 2 audiences that your RepeatMD helps you tap into, right? Referrals and active patients. Well, active patients already love you. They're already seeing you on a regular basis. So why not flip them into members and get them to spend more and more often? And secondary to that, they're referrals, right? These are people that are coming to you ready to go with a recommendation. And again, they're just that much easier to convert, and they're going to convert much more quickly. Their sales cycle is that much more concentrated. So all 4 of the audiences are worth marketing to. I'm not saying they're not, but if you really want to hit the ground running in 2026, you really want to see traction with your conversion, you want to focus on the bottom 2. You want to focus on your active patients and turning them into members and higher spending members, and you want to focus on your referrals. If you can do those 2 things, you're going to be in an awesome spot. So then the question comes, how do we actually do this, right? So when it comes to referral marketing, 2 approaches reign supreme. We're going to get into both of these in quite a bit of detail this afternoon, right? But there's really 2 kinds of referrals that can grow your practice. Both are phenomenal. The first is going to be patient-driven referrals, right? That is an existing patient telling someone they know about how great you are, using your app to share those referral rewards, right? That's one kind of referral. The other kind of referral is business-driven referral. We're going to get into that a lot today as well, right? That is basically, I like to call them COI marketing. COI marketing. What is COI? COI is just an acronym, and you might want to write this one down. It stands for Center of Influence. Center of Influence. In other words, who has access to the clientele you want, but doesn't compete with you, right? That's what a business-driven referral is. Both are phenomenal. You need to be doing both. We're going to talk about both of these at length today. Just want to make sure we illustrate kind of and set the stage. So let's get into this in a bit more detail, right? Patient-driven referrals, let's talk about what your keys to success are going to be there. I want you to write this down. I want you to bookmark it. I want you to tattoo it to your forehead if you're so inclined. App first, okay? App first. There are 1,000,001 ways you can choose to run a referral program, but nothing, and I mean nothing, is going to be as easy, as seamless, get off the ground as quickly, and gain momentum as easily as if you lean into your app and the referral functionalities it offers you, okay? Truly, nothing works like your app to get referrals going. So why am I so uppity about using your app first? Because it automates it for you, right? There's no tracking a bunch of clunky referral cards, right? You are, through all the rewards you're able to share through the app, motivating patients to talk about you, right? Everybody loves to refer. Everybody loves to refer, right? I've referred my housekeeper to 12 people in my condo complex, right? I refer my haircut, my hairdresser to people all the time, right? But I don't necessarily have incentives to refer them. So as much as I love to refer, I get busy and it slips my mind. If there were incentives tied to it, I might be talking about them a little more often, right? So incentives motivate people to refer. This is exactly why you want to lean into your app. It can all be tracked easily, right? Not just by your patients, but by your practice on the back end as well, right? And I mean, we all love a good game on our phones, right? Those gamification aspects just make it that much more of an enticing experience for your patients to talk about you, right? So lots of ways you can run a referral program, but truly nothing is going to, be better than doing it through your RepeatMD app. I really want you to remember that. Again, just a few reasons this way of doing it through your app is so effective. There's an incentive for everyone, right? There's not just an incentive for your, patient who's coming in for the first time, but the patient who's sending them to you for the first time is being incentivized as well. Again, it's automated, it's driven based on performance, right? And again, those milestones and having them gamified just makes such a world of difference to the patient's experience and makes them that much more eager to want to talk about you. So again, we're going to talk about a lot of things today, but the one underlying thread they all have in common is app first. You always want to be app first. So taking this a step further, if we know that keeping it easy reigns supreme and combining high tech, aka your app, with high touch, aka the power of patient relationships, like how do we build on that, right? So if you're thinking app first, here's a few things you can do to even take that further. One thing I love to do, this is going to work for some patients and others might not be as open to it, which is okay, but you want to make it available for the patients who are really eager to do so. Incentivize selfies, right? What do I mean by that? So let's just say you have a patient who's in your practice. If they take a story or if they take a picture, take a selfie, post it to their Instagram story and tag your practice, what are you able to give them? Maybe it's a travel size of your SPF if your skincare vendors are able to help you with that. Maybe it's a complimentary dermaplaning enhancement to their next visit. Maybe next time, they get a facial with your esthetician, maybe they get a, 25-minute LED mask complimentary. If you do IV hydration or you're a wellness practice, maybe they get a complimentary ingredient boost on their next visit, right? Why do I like incentivizing selfies? This is a really nice passive way of getting referrals, right? What can they do? They can tag you. Their followers are going to naturally see you. That's their friends, their family, everyone else. They'll start following you on your socials. They'll get engaged with the content because it's your existing patient selfie. It already comes with that implicit recommendation. And it's just a nice way to not only grow your patient base on social media, but also see those referrals increase. Now, yes, incentivize selfies. And then maybe you have an even more well worth it incentive for those patients who want to take it a step further. And again, this one, a lot of patients will not do, but for the patients that are willing, let's make it worth their while, right? What if they were willing to post their before and after onto their actual feed for all their friends, their coworkers, their family to see? Think of how many new inquiries that can get you. Think of what that can translate into in terms of new revenue to your practice, right? A lot of people might not do it, but if your incentive is valuable enough, they might just well do it. You never know, right? Make it available to them. Another thing that's a great way to grow referrals is a beauty bestie service. Now, those of you who joined me on the RepeatMD Sell More event a few weeks ago, you heard me talk about this there. I'm going to bring it up one more time. This is where you look to either have two patients do a treatment concurrently or back to back. You have to work out how you're going to do that in your scheduling software. But if they schedule together, there's preferred pricing extended. But the real kicker here is these cannot just be two people that are seeing you already. Oh no. In order to enjoy their beauty besties offer, one of them has to be brand new to your practice. That's going to unlock the preferred pricing for both of your patients, the existing one and the new one, right? And then again, if you do events, make sure you have incentives for people to bring a +1 with them. Maybe it is a +1 and they get extra entries into your giveaways. Maybe it is a +1 and they receive an additional voucher to use anything. Different ways you can do this, but these are all things you can do to take your referrals that much further. Again, always leaning on your app, and apps really being, your RepeatMD app really being kind of the underlying foundation to all of this, but just some ways you can build on it that much more. So a few ways you can definitely leverage it. I'd love to know in the comments, which of these are you doing? Which of these excites you to try? Let me know if there's any you want me to go into more detail to. But these are things I have seen with our clients all across the industry, Canada, US, UK, you name it, that can really take your referrals that much further. So let me know, which of these you might be thinking of using in your practice and what you'd like to grow with. But just some really great ideas for you there. Now, the other thing you want to keep in mind is that reviews equal referrals, okay? Reviews and referrals truly are like peanut butter and jelly, right? They build one another and they grow together. So not only want to make sure you're getting referrals, that's super important, but also make sure you're incentivizing, or pardon me, not necessarily incentivizing, but really, encouraging your patients to leave reviews. I actually don't like incentivizing reviews, but I do like encouraging patients to leave reviews. And I think a big part of it boils down to how you ask, right? If your staff are just saying to a practice patient, oh, well, help us grow our business, leave us a review. Like, that's not particularly enticing. There's no real motivation for the patient to do that, right? An acronym I want you all to write down, there's going to be a bunch today, but an acronym I want you all to write down is WIIFM. WIIFM. Every patient on the planet is listening to the exact same radio station, and that radio station is WIIFM. What does that mean? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? That is all every patient is thinking in their mind every moment of every day. So rather than just saying, oh, well, leave us a review, it'll help our business, yeah, that's great. But I've found there's a more compelling way to ask. And I want you all to think of this like a reflex. What do I mean by this? So anytime a patient is, saying, oh my gosh, you look 10 years younger, or oh my gosh, I've never felt this good or had this much energy, right? Anytime a patient pays you a compliment or gives a member of your staff a compliment, I want it to be like a reflex, like that is your immediate cue to ask for the review. And again, instead of just saying, oh, well, leave us a review, that's not compelling. What I would encourage you to say instead is something along the lines of, I think your results would inspire a lot of people, or I think your story would inspire a lot of people, or I think your transformation would inspire a lot of people. Would you be so kind to maybe share a few words with that online? Most people are going to be like, oh my gosh, really? Wow. Well, okay, sure. I guess if that's the case, right? You might want to also look at developing some offline collateral, right? Some things, you might have, different tech features in your EMR or otherwise that can help you get reviews, and that's awesome. But I do love creating referral cards, just, easy instructions of how people can leave a review online. You may choose to do a QR code on those referral cards as well. Different ways you can do this, but really making sure you make, just like you want referrals to be easy, you want leaving a review to be easy as well. And a little bonus tip for you when you're asking for reviews, you'll get a lot of patients who say like, oh, they were great. I looked wonderful. So wonderful. Right. And that's nice, but like that doesn't necessarily give you the most, let's say, power for marketing, right? What you want to make sure your patients are doing in their reviews is naming two things. The first thing you want to make sure they're naming is who their provider was that day, right? And secondary to that, you want to make sure your patients are naming the treatment they got, right? Because if you've got, 50 people in their reviews that are saying, soft wave, or you've got 50 people in your reviews that are saying, halo laser, or you've got 50 people in your reviews that are saying, Dysport or Botox or whatever using your practice, that's going to help you start to gain search traction for those words locally, right? So ideally your patient aren't just saying like, I love this place, you should go. You want their reviews to be a little bit more specific. You really want them to speak to not only who their provider was, that's number one, but in addition to that, talking about the treatment they had with you that day. Super, super important. So keep that in mind. So then let's talk about the second kind of referrals, right? Patient-driven referrals are phenomenal. Those are the foundation. They're awesome. You need to be really proactively leaning into that. But the second kind of referral is truly what I believe to be the holy grail of marketing, right? And like we talked about a little bit earlier, this is your, COI result, right? Your COIs, your centers of influence, those people that have access to the clientele you want, but don't compete with you. Those people that have access to the clientele you want, but don't compete with you. So what does this mean? Again, a COI, like I said, has to actually have the patients you want, right? Is like the local plumber going to be your best COI? Maybe, maybe not, right? But like the local Pilates studio, right? The local members only club, right? The local high-end hair salon, they absolutely have access to the clientele you want, right? So this is not just like any business that you can throw a stone at. This is not people that are yes, in close proximity to you, but in addition to that, they have access to the clientele you want. And kind of going back to my plumber example, like, hey, if a plumber wants to send you patients, awesome. But more likely than not, you want to find those centers of influence that are ready and eager to engage with you, because that's going to be a mutually beneficial partnership, right? You've got access to the clientele they want. They have access to the clientele you want. It links together beautifully, right? And like I said, their services need to be a natural fit for yours, right? I've seen people kind of say like, oh, well, like Adam, should we like partner with this like local hotel, or like, oh, like this, other local business? I'm not saying don't, but what I am saying is you always want to start with those local businesses who really have complementary services to what you are doing in your practice, right? Now, I will say, finding COIs is a little bit like dating, right? The first yoga studio you approach might not be the one, right? Like the first, local private school you approach might not be the one. And that's okay, right? Like I said, it's just like dating. You need to sometimes feel a few different businesses in the community out to find that one that's aligned with you, that's eager to partner, and is really going to be a great long-term center of influence to build your business, right? So if that's what a center of influence is, let's really talk about the 7 centers of influence that I see practices really get the most traction with, right? Who are those centers of influence that clients of ours really are seeing results from? Let's get into it. So in no particular order, the 7 are going to be, first and foremost, I love a good fitness studio partnership, right? Now, ideally, you're not going for the big box gym. That can work. Like we have clients who do phenomenally with like They're local Lifetime Fitnesses. So I'm not saying don't do the big box gyms, but what I am saying is where I see the most traction is really partnering and building relationships with those independently owned local studios. Pilates, bar studios. If you do anything for body treatments, boxing studios can be like hitting a home run, right? Yoga studios. So fitness studios are definitely one of your big COIs you want to tap into. The second one I absolutely love are luxury salons, right? And this is not just in a place that does hair. That's certainly part of it, but like let's think a little bit outside the box, right? Where is like the really high-end nail parlor in your market? Maybe you've got like some really top-tier lash artists in close proximity to your practice, and you want to reach out to them. There's a lot of these new like scalp health salons popping up, kind of that trend that's come our way, from South Korea, right? Those can be a great partnership as well, especially if you're doing things like Keravive in your practice or anything for hair restoration. Those work phenomenally, right? One that a lot of people don't think of, and this is especially true if you are a wellness-oriented practice, great for aesthetics, but where I really see this hit the ground running is a practice that are very wellness-oriented, is wealth managers. Maybe that is a CPA for the high net worth individuals in your community. Maybe it is a wealth management firm that particularly focuses on a particular demographic in your community, right? We love a good wealth manager because an investment in your health is an investment in your wealth, and those two things work so beautifully together. Another one I think a lot of people overlook, or they just go at it from a very surface level, is wedding professionals. This could be a wedding boutique. This could be the really high-end wedding planner in your community. Maybe the owner or management staff at a local venue that's really popular for high-end weddings, right? I always say brides are buyers. Brides are buyers. And you better believe dollars to donuts that these brides and grooms and mother of the bride, bridal party, and people just attending the wedding, anyone who has anything to do with the wedding wants to look and feel their best on the big day, right? Brides are buyers, as is quite frankly anyone who has anything to do with the wedding, right? So you want to make sure you're really finding ways to build relationships with the wedding professionals in your community. I'm going to show you how to do that in a few minutes. And then finally, the last two here, we've got realtors. And I don't just mean like Sold by Sally, who's selling the starter home down the road. No, nothing wrong with that. But I'm talking about your luxury estate brokers, right? Typically, these are going to be selling properties that are, 1.2 million or more. Again, it's going to depend a little bit on where your practice is located, what real estate is looking like in your market, but the high-end realtors, or how you really want to go after. Why? Realtors are kind of like the mayor. Like their whole business kind of depends on putting people in touch, right? So you really want to make sure that you are finding ways to get real friendly with the realtors in your area. And then last but not least, this is one that I think a lot of people overlook or they don't know how to leverage it. I'm going to show you how to do that today. But private schools, right? It could be a preparatory school. It could be a Montessori school. Why? We are not trying to get the patients of the students of those schools as your patients. That's actually not our goal. Who I really want, though, is I want the parents of those students as your patients, right? So doing things with these different private schools is just a way to kind of get an in to the affluent parents who are sending their kids there. I'm going to also talk about some really effective ways to do that as well. So let's keep building on this. If these are our 7 centers of influence in the business-to-business referral, how do we actually make this work? What can these referral partnerships look like, right? Here's what it doesn't look like. Let's go hand out some brochures and business cards, right? I can bet you, again, dollars to donuts, that if that's how you're trying to build community partnerships, you probably have not seen much traction doing that. And if you've handed out those brochures and business cards, let's say in at least 50% of those cases, if not more, that business card is getting tossed into the wastebasket the minute you leave, right? Because there's no value that's been built, right? The analogy I like to use here is like if you were to go on a first date and someone was like to put a diamond ring on the table during your appetizers, like you'd probably run out of that restaurant screaming, right? That's kind of how you're all approaching community partnerships right now. There's no value built for this business. You don't know them, they don't know you, but you're right away going in like for the the home run and saying like, oh well, let's collaborate. Like they don't even know you yet, right? Way too much, way too soon. So how do we actually build a partnership with a local business in a way that's going to be compelling and really in a way that's going to add value for the business and make them want to collaborate with you, right? Again, remember, the value equation should always be slanted in your favor. Anytime you are building a referral partnership in the community, the value equation should always be slanted in your favor. What I mean by that is you need to be a giver first, right? Don't expect something right away from day one for them to send you patients. You want to make sure you are a giver first in a way, of course, that's very cost effective for your practice and doesn't break the bank, but still shows how much you care about that other business and that you really want to be from that position of helping them first and growing their businesses and offering them things from the outset, right? Be a giver first. So if we know who our COI targets are, what do we do with them? What can this partnership look like, right? So I'm going to share with you the big 4 ways that you might want to look to partner with local businesses or other people in your community that have access to the clientele you want. No one of these approaches is better than another. It's just about finding out what is going to make the most sense for your business, what is going to make the most sense for their business, and what they're the most open to. And again, 2 fitness studios might not want to partner the same way. That's okay, right? 2 wedding professionals might not want to partner the same way. Totally fine. We've got a whole array of ways we can use. So let's get into this. The first way you can add value is really by rewarding the referral source, right? This could be, if you are talking to the stylists at the local high-end hair salon, maybe you offer them a complimentary express facial, or maybe you offer them a treatment, one of your energy devices, no consumable, right, on a smaller area, right? Show them how great your results are. Show them how great your experience is. You might want to look at offering them gratis treatments with a very low out-of-pocket cost for you, but you're still being a giver first, right? If you are trying to partner with country clubs, or maybe it's the instructors at the local yoga studio, maybe you do an afternoon that's like a staff indulge day, and it's something they can use as a performance reward for their top staff, right? And they can come in and enjoy a B12 shot or a vitamin infusion, right? Complimentary as a way to reward them for their hard work, but also discovering how great your practice is, right? If you're going to approach businesses in person, that's awesome. But please come bearing gifts, right? Maybe you come with a basket of skincare samples and branded self-care items like, a hand towel, or maybe it's water bottles if you're approaching fitness studios, right? You can play with what that is. But my favorite way, the first way to really build community relationships is to reward the referral source. Once you've got that relationship built, once they trust you, once they see how awesome your practice is, you can also look at the second way to partner with these local businesses, right? Which is co-sponsor an event. Now, you could both put an event on together, absolutely, but it doesn't have to be that elaborate, right? You can always start with something that is simple, right? So maybe we start with really looking at co-sponsoring an event with gift bags, right? Maybe we look at co-sponsoring, where you buy out the Pilates studio and buy out the yoga class, right? Maybe you do a glow up evening, right? Where you guys do something together and you're both offering freebies, right? Maybe it is something with, community fairs or bridal shows. It all can work beautifully, right? But maybe you choose to co-sponsor an event. Third is share and educate, right? Why not educate these audiences together, right? Again, if you're working with a local wealth manager, maybe it's about investing in your health, right? Maybe you are doing a talk at the local private school about, teen skin and, things that parents can do to really help their young adult children that are dealing with acne, right? Maybe you just do something about parent wellness, right? Maybe you're talking about, as, teens are entering their teenage years and all those changes, why it's super important to, have proper nutrition and hydration and sleep and self-care and all of those things, right? Or maybe you're just partnering with the local hair salon on great hair, great skin, social media content. That can be great too. Last but not least, one of my absolute favorites actually is adding value to access patients, right? Adding value to access patients. So going back to those luxury realtors for a minute, maybe when they close on a property, you offer them a $200 gift voucher to your practice, right? Maybe you are doing, holiday vouchers, investment advisors can give to their clientele as a thank you for doing business with them that year. Like I said, maybe if you're a wellness practice, you are doing a recovery day for local instructors, or maybe you looked at, and this is going to take a relationship with a real estate broker. It's not going to happen overnight, but they have something called a broker's open, right? If you don't know what that is, a broker's open is basically an open house, but not for the general public. It's usually for really high-end luxury listings where the listing agent is inviting other estate brokers in the area to really discover it. Maybe you can sponsor an IV lounge there, right? There's so many things you can do here, right? Charity auctions fit into this category as well, but add value to access patients, right? Add value to access patients. If you're able to integrate and make it easy for your referral sources with all of these and do it through your RepeatMD app, even better, right? But these at a glance are really the 4 big ways that you want to really tap into your local community COIs, those centers of influence, and really find ways to partner with them for the long haul, all while being a giver first. Really want you to keep that in mind. So if that's kind of how you do it, how do we make these campaigns real, right? So if you're going to partner with a fitness studio, again, maybe you start with the Pilates studio or the bar studio or the yoga studio, right? And in the first few weeks, you really want to plan invite cards for the instructors at these studios to discover a facial at your practice. Maybe you invite them to join your app, right? Maybe you want to also start attending classes there. So again, you're being a giver first and getting to know how great their business is too, right? Tagging them, then you follow it up with a gift drop. Like so many ways you can do this, right? If we're looking at salons, right, this could be your lash artists, your makeup professionals, your hairstylists, right? Maybe you create, and I actually got this idea from Chris Balby. I did not make this up. He came up with this and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant, Chris. I have to use this in my talks, right? Maybe you create the sticker they can put on their mirror, something like the, great hair deserves fabulous skin, or you look great, now let's get you feeling great, right? Maybe you share patients, maybe you share clientele, and you can work together to do like an Instagram reel of like their before and after and what their glow up looked like, right? You can lean into that. Maybe, whether it's through your app or otherwise, once that person refers you 3 patients, they refer 3 people and get a complimentary hydrofacial, right? So many ways you could lean into this. For real estate professionals, again, create referral collateral that makes it easy for them to refer. I'm going to show you an example of that in just a second, right? Maybe, again, at a broker's open, if you don't want to do an IV lounge, maybe you do a skin space, right? You start small and you grow. This is true for all of your centers of influence, right? All of your referral bases, you start small and then you grow, right? So this is an example of like what a referral card might look like, for a local luxury real estate agent, right? If they are, selling homes, well, guess what? Give that person new in the area a new home for longevity and aesthetics, right? And maybe that's a credit towards their first treatment of like $500 or more. You can play with the amount, you can play with the phrasing, but again, create that collateral alongside your app to make it simple for those other businesses to refer you. Keep that in mind. Just some examples here of what that can look like with a wedding professional, what you could do with a private club. And again, private clubs don't necessarily mean the same thing in every market. Who's around you? Yes, it could be a traditional golf and country club. Absolutely. But maybe there's a yacht club near you if you're in a warmer climate. Maybe it's the local tennis club. Maybe there is a social club, right? Maybe it is a wellness club. Maybe it's an equestrian club, right? Different forms this can take, but I really want you all to build relationships with those local centers of influence, right? And this is how you can do it with private clubs. This is an example of like what a piece of collateral could look like for a private school, right? This is a practice we worked with where she actually did a talk about the importance of self-care as students are entering the teenage years. And this, by the way, was actually the local Montessori school. So what we did, we gave that talk. Obviously, there was no pitch there. Like I said, we're not trying to make those patients or those students our patients, but this was a take-home piece that these students then gave to their parents, talking about what we talked to them about that day and what we do in the community, and that we'd love to build a relationship with them. Very low pressure, but just about adding value, right? So if those are all the things you can do to market patient to patient, you can do to market with local centers of influence, here's what a 30-day action plan could look like, right? First, you need to find your target. AI can help with this. A little bit of recon on social media can certainly help with this as well, right? So first phase, this should not take you more than a couple days, but this is where you want to research and find those targets, right? Don't start with 100, okay? That is going to overwhelm you. Start with like 10 or 15, right? Get their social media handles, get their contact information. AI can totally help you with this, by the way. If you've got the paid version of ChatGPT and want to do some deeper research, it can totally help you with this, right? From there, once you've got your targets, start by reaching out to them. And you are not going to reach out to every one of these businesses in the same way. And that's okay, right? Some businesses like makeup artists or hairstylists, real estate professionals, like yes, pardon me, a social media DM can totally be a great way to connect with them. For others, like some of these fitness studios or some of these salons, maybe then you want to do an in-person outreach. And again, go bearing gifts, right? So one size does not fit all for marketing. One size also does not fit all for your outreach to these centers of influence. But phase 2, this can happen within a week and a half or so, is where you're really going to start to outreach these businesses. I will say you probably want to do this if you're thinking of really hitting the ground running. You're going to want to do it even quicker. You're going to want to start to reach out to these businesses and build these relationships before the holiday season hits in about a week, right? That's where it gets trickier. Start building these relationships now with an eye towards 2026, right? From there, what does that partnership look like for each of these businesses, right? The planning and activation phase, this is where we start getting into what these different relationships look like. Lead into that. Create brand collateral, lock in some dates that you might be doing things together if you're looking at events, right? And then from there, start to execute, right? Start to put those experiences together, and then don't ever let these be a one-off, right? Always thank your referral sources for every referral, whether it's 20 patients or one patient. You need to treat your referral sources like gold, right? So make sure you thank them, and definitely make sure that you leave plenty of time for follow-up as well, right? Tag them on social media. Be a giver first there, right? What does it cost you to repost a local business's content and tag them? Absolutely nothing. That's a really soft way to start building those relationships, right? And then again, if that relationship goes well, that first collaboration went well, what does the next one look like, right? You want to turn this into an ongoing thing, right? Center of influence referral collaborations are not something you do once. They're something you do perpetually and on an ongoing basis. So really want you to keep that in mind. So bringing that all together, that was a lot very, very quickly, but let's talk a little bit about this, right? Whatever brought you here today, don't think you need to build this crazy, robust referral system overnight. Frankly, you've already got that through your RepeatMD app. So of everything I just shared with you in this quick little masterclass here, what partnership excites you the most? What patient-to-patient referral initiative excites you the most, right? Small steps, taken consistently, make a world of difference, right? So find one or two or three gems of wisdom from everything we talked about today and really see what you're going to be able to implement in the next 2 weeks, in the next 30 days heading into 2026, right? What are you going to be able to do to really grow your referral base? Again, you've got quite literally the best tool in the industry, bar none, to build your referrals. It's the RepeatMD app. You want to make sure you're finding new ways to leverage it, right? Work with the app. You're going to see it pays dividends for months, for years to come, and builds your patient base like nothing else out there. These are just a few of the strategies you can use to do it. So that was a lot very, very quickly. I really want to leave plenty of time for Q&A because that's one of my favorite part of all of these masterclasses. But let's talk a little bit about, some resources that can take you learning further. Where do you find upskilled patients? How do you make them have an experience you're going to love? All of those things, you can find that at our lovely QR code here, or you can find that at neverdiscount.com. But those are just some quick resources for you. I'd love to also stay connected on social media. There's my handle on Instagram, my email, send me a text, send me all the things. I would love to stay in touch. But let's get into some Q&A. Jeremy is back. Hello, Jeremy. Let's talk a little bit about some Q&A. What did you learn today? Fill me in.
Oh my gosh, like Adam, I'm always just flabbergasted by how much value you can pack into what 40 minutes. Holy moly, that was great.
Valuable. I love to get value on these. This is my favorite time of the month. I love it.
I love it, and I just want to touch on one of the things that you were talking about the centers of influence and how you're talking about partnering with specifically a wedding business, right? And I
Yeah,
can speak from experience because I used to own a wedding business. We did
sure.
like photo, video, band, DJ, all kinds of stuff. And one of my best partners I had was a local aesthetic practice. And it was incredible. And like in return, what I would do is give them free headshots, do like marketing stuff and things like
Yeah,
that. And they'd send me business, I'd send them business. I can attest to that personally.
love that. Amazing. Can I give everyone a bonus one? We're waiting for some Q&A to come in. And this is one like that I've never shared, with the public before. So you're getting on the RepeatMD masterclass because I love you guys that much. 4 words I want you to write down. Director of Family Engagement. Director of Family Engagement. I honestly stumbled on this COI like complete accident with a client, and I'm like, wow, we are doing this forever. This is someone who works for a pro sports team, and their entire job is basically to hook up the families, wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, you name it, of these pro sports players with businesses in the community. That is literally their entire job. So if you can find one of those on a pro sports team in your community, LinkedIn is a great place to start finding these people. My goodness, the things they can do for your practice. And I'll be honest, in the case of our client who's in the Midwest, we did this with, this particular director of family engagement, she can basically have whatever she wants complimented from our practice. I will do whatever she wants as long as she puts us in the good graces of those sports players and their families. And my goodness, has she ever done that? And by the way, in this case, this is actually a sports team that already had an official med spa. Well, okay, so we just can't use the sports team's name in our marketing, but we can still do great things with their families. So sometimes you got to get a little creative with these COIs. But my gosh, if you can find a director of family engagement in your community, run, don't walk to get engaged with them because you got to be the first in your market to do it. So there you go. A little for all of you joining me here live. Like if you want something fun to do with your glass of herbal tea tonight or your glass of wine or a cappuccino, whatever you drink in the evening, go on LinkedIn and start finding some directors of family engagement. But there you go.
Amazing. Wow. Just tips for days, guys. Please go into the chat. It doesn't have to be in Q&A, wherever you want to type it. Submit some questions for us. I know that, Adam can answer a lot of these, and if he can, I
Absolutely.
will.
Yep. And I will say the one thing about referrals is they compound, right? It really is that domino effect. But most practices, like I said, I talk to hundreds of practices every month, dozens of practices every week. One of the first questions I always ask is like, so tell me about referrals. Oh, you don't have RepeatMD? Well, that's sad. You need to get that. So we get them signed up with that. And then from there, I ask, what does your referral program look like up until now? Do you have something in place, or is it kind of just like happening as it happens? And before they got on board with the app and discover all the great things your PMD can do for them, 9 times out of 10, practice is like, oh, well, the referrals are kind of just happening as they happen. That's lovely and all, but like that's kind of hope as a marketing strategy. And I love hope, but hope is no strategy, right? So right now, you're that practice that hasn't tapped into your referral functionalities just yet, and referrals are kind of just happening as they happen. Well, that's great, but imagine what's going to happen when you actually start using these features, and actually what's actually going to start happening when you put structure to it, right? It's going to make a world of difference, right? And you will always do offline marketing. You will always do online marketing. Yes, I'm not saying don't, but what I am saying is, and I'm sure you've all seen this month after month, year after year in your practices, like nothing is quite like the quality of patients that come to you through a referral. So keep that in mind. Now, some patients are going to be more likely to refer than others. I will say we love our male patients. We absolutely do. Unfortunately, they just aren't the group that refers the most. It's just not kind of how they do business, right? Nothing wrong with that, but find those demographics and those audience members that you do have in your patient base that are more likely to refer. Keep that in mind. Oh, we've got a question here from Carol. Hello, Carol. She says, I've been partnering with fitness events that has helped me, but I'm in the personal training and recovery space, physical therapy and recovery space. Totally, right? And this speaks so well to one thing I talked about, Carol. Like, you need services that are complementary to yours, right? So for the nature of your practice, fitness businesses are the perfect referral, right? I'm not saying like a lash artist can't partner with a fitness business, not at all, but the more natural the fit of services, the more naturally those partnerships are going to flourish, right? So keep that in mind. And then this might be a question for you here, Jeremy. Just made it into RepeatMD. I love that. Is there a minimum purchase to get credit?
Jessica, can you give me a little bit more information around your question? What minimum purchase to get credit? Kind of what? Oh, are you talking about the referral feature? Okay, now it's starting to click for me. Okay, sorry, it takes me a second. Yes, okay, perfect. So Jessica, great question. So there isn't a minimum purchase for that patient to get that referral credit. However, what you can do is you can control what that referral reward is for the patients that are referring their friends. So since there's no minimum like purchase amount, you can lower that to make it make more sense for your business. Because instead of maybe it's $50 in repeat cash, maybe you drop that down to $25 or $20, right? Because I can't imagine anyone would be upset for a free $20 for sharing this with their friend, right? So it's whatever makes the most sense for your business. But yeah, to answer your question, no minimum purchase, but adjust the referral price or referral reward as necessary. Sweet.
Love that.
Great question.
Also, the thing that's so great about using your app, like you can make it your own. Like I said, one size never fits all for referrals. One size can never fit all for marketing. Like make it what makes sense for your business. Play with those amounts. See what converts the best for you. But your app can unlock all of it for you. So I'm so stoked about today's webinar. This is like one of my favorite things to talk about. This is great.
Anything else, y'all? Hit us in the chat. We love answering questions. This is fun.
I'd also love to hear, maybe you've got a good referral base going right now. I'd love to hear what maybe has worked the best for you. Has it been like Carol, other fitness businesses? Maybe it is patient to patient. Maybe there is a wellness business that doesn't compete with you that's done things really, really well. I will say something else on COIs, going back to the whole idea of fitness studios. Again, I'm not saying you can't partner with the big boxes, but I found, especially with some of the fitness franchises out there, we've pulled it off, but it is a very slow relationship to build for the simple reason that everything has to go through like 30 different layers of approvals. Like we worked with, I'm not gonna name the name here, but like a very large hour-long workout where half is half is treadmill and half is weights, and it's named after a color. I'm sure you can think of what I'm thinking of. And like, it was great, but like, my goodness, everything had to go through like 8 different layers of approvals, and we pulled it off, and it was awesome. But like, I was like, my gosh, we just went down to the local fitness studio. We couldn't listen in like 10 days, right? So the bigger the referral partner in terms of the brand, the more layers you might have to go through. So truly go local. Your local business, you want to partner with local business, it just generally lends itself to being the quickest. I'll share with you also some very unconventional referral sources we've seen. A number of our clients have actually got a really good referral basis with like really high-end car dealerships. I'm talking like the Ferrari dealership, one of our clients, and that is a business that sends them a ton of patients. We work a ton with their, sales professionals as well, right? So like I said, start with those 7. Those are going to be your most lucrative. We can build from there. And Jessica says collabs have worked really well for her as well. I absolutely love that. And again, even if it's just something as simple as you reposting another business's content to your Instagram story or they're reposting yours, that's a great way to add goodwill and build that relationship and start getting exposure to some new people. So absolutely.
Oh, we got a question here from Keaton. Let me share it on the screen. There we go. Adam, can you see that?
We partner with Yeah, I can see that. Wonderful. We partner with high-end salons and pay stylists a percentage of the book consult. Can the stylist just refer through their app and track their referrals through the app? Jeremy, I'll toss that one over to you.
So yes, they can. Now, how that's done is really what I would recommend to make it just like the easiest lift for everybody is have that stylist or any of like the other people you partner with, have them join your actual app, right? So that way it's a one-click referral button for them and they can text it to whoever they want. Also, and then whenever they sign up people in your admin panel, you'll be able to track like who referred who. Like if it says like Adam signed up and it says referred by Jeremy, it'll say that, excuse me, in the admin panel. So you can track all of that in there. And another way, like if you have like a local influencer or anything like that, and they want to post like their influencer link in their bio or something like that. Well, to get that link, all they have to do is like hit that referral button like they're sending the text message, and they can copy and paste that link that gets automatically added into the message. They can copy and paste that anywhere, right? I know it's not like the easiest way to get that link, but that is another way they can do it. And it's going to be like their unique link that they can use as like an influencer link, if you will.
Love that.
Keaton, did I explain that well? Hope I did.
And I will say, to your point, influencers can be a great referral source for you too. I will say I am a little bit selective with where I choose to use influencers. I think influencer marketing has evolved a little bit in the last few years. The general public is kind of a little bit more wise to it. But where we still see really great impact is not with that, like, reality star that's maybe a little washed up from like 5 years ago with like 500,000 followers. That's not what I'm looking for as an influencer anymore. I'm looking for that locally based influencer. Maybe it's a mommy blogger. Maybe it is a fitness person, right? Who has between 5 and 30,000 followers. That's more of that micro influencer space. That's where I see a ton of impact when we work with an influencer. So not saying don't use them, but what I am saying is don't go after that like million follower person. You want those more locally based influencers between 5 and 30,000 followers. That is where you can still see some really great returns working with influencers. And don't let it be a one-off, right? Don't just like let that influencer come see you once for a facial and never again. Like you want it to be an ongoing partnership. Ideally, in your agreements with these influencers, if they're going to become a referral source for you, you also want to make sure there's some kind of exclusivity in there. Like maybe for 6 to 12 months, you can work out what that agreement looks like, but they cannot go to another wellness provider or not go to another wellness practice. Like you are their partner for that period of time because we've all seen it. There's nothing worse than an influencer that's doing something for you 1 week and then 10 days later, lo and behold, they're at your competitors getting a competing service. It doesn't feel good, right? So influencers can work, but make sure it's a smaller local influencer, make sure that agreement is really well structured, and make sure there's some degree of ongoing collaboration and ideally exclusivity so they're not going to your competitor the next week. So just a few tips if you are thinking of using influencers.
I love that. That's literally covering every angle there, Adam. That's great.
Love it. Cool. Any other challenges today? Any other questions? Fill us in. Again, you guys all have like the best referral tool literally on the planet today. I want you to be able to maximize it. So Jeremy and I are here for any other questions. Let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it. Can I share a really fun success story from last week with my clients who's using RepeatMD just to inspire all of you?
Please do. That sounds great.
So we chose to do something a little bit different with them, and we actually did what we called Better Than Black Friday, and we launched it a few weeks early to really capture the attention. Their promotion was on a number of different things. One of the best through the app was like gift cards. From one SMS I sent through the RepeatMD app, of course, we did like $40,000 in revenue that day. Like super exciting. So like you guys have such a powerful tool at your disposal. You just got to make sure you're leveraging all those features. Referrals being one of my absolute favorites. SMS capability, absolutely another. So like lean into it, guys. You can do some game-changing things with your technology with your RepeatMD app.
That's another really great call out. Speaking of like outside of like the referral feature itself, like the gift card feature can
Yep.
work as referrals. Like that's super cool because they don't have
Totally.
to be a user of the app yet. They get the gift card. It's when they join the app, it's all preloaded in there. Well, hey, great way to build referrals like that as well, especially with like a little incentive, a gift card. And a little fun fact, on average, people typically spend 20 to 40% more than the gift card amount that they purchased or received. So that's fun too. So lots of wins there.
And like going back to what we were talking about with the different ways to tap into your local referrals, reward the referral source, gift cards to your app, one of the best. So absolutely, I love that, Jeremy.
This is great. Well, if there aren't any other
Cool.
questions, I think we can wrap up, Adam.
This was such a fun masterclass, you guys. I cannot wait to hear how you're leveraging your app's referral feature heading into the new year, heading into the holiday season. Follow me on Instagram, share your success stories. I'll share those on my story as well with the RepeatMD team. And again, can't wait to stay connected with all of you and see you all on our RepeatMD masterclass very soon. This is a delight. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thank you all so much. Take care.
Thanks so much, guys. Bye for now. Bye.